Officers and members of the public gallery. Welcome to this Ordinary Council meeting of the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale, being held on Monday the 17th of July 2023 in the Council Chambers, Civic Centre, 6 Patterson Street, Mundijong. I declare this meeting open at 7 p.m. and welcome councillors, staff and members of the public gallery. And I would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional land of the Noongar people, and we pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to advise members of the public gallery that the meeting is being audio recorded in accordance with council policy. If you are asking questions or making a statement of deputation to the meeting, this will be audio recorded. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of this meeting by any other means is allowed. Item 1 on tonight's agenda is attendances and apologies. We have 3 apologies this evening from Councillor Bias, Councillor D'Agostino and Councillor Mack. Item 2 is public question time. Item 2.1 is response to previous public questions taken on notice. You'll find them listed in the agenda and they will also be published in the minutes from this meeting. Item 2.2 is public question time. Can I please ask Mr. John Kirkpatrick of Byford to come forward and read your questions this evening, please? Doesn't look like Mr. Kirkpatrick is here. A written response will be provided in writing by the CEO to Mr. Kirkpatrick for his questions that he has submitted this evening. Could I please ask Mr. Daniel Jackson, Facility Manager, Serpentine Camping Ground, regarding item 10.1.3, proposed sand industry extractive, lot 6 and lot 100 Jarrahdale Road, Jarrahdale, to come forward and ask your questions, please.
Yes, hello, thank you. Just in regards to the lot 100, we have requested the distance between the edge of the quarry and fence line to be between 50 to 100 metres, particularly due to noise pollution and dust suppression. If this is not adhered to, do the developers consent to compensating surrounding businesses for a loss of business, particularly as those surrounding the proposed sand quarry have been established for a number of years, ours for 50 plus years? What dust mitigation strategies are being proposed and how will this be monitored? Where do they propose to get their water allocation from for this? Particularly as we have multiple factors such as kitchen contamination, solar panel efficiency and customer comfort that are our main concern. And the third question is, can we receive a guarantee that Transit Road will not be used for entry or exit? And if it is, does the developer propose to both upgrade the road and have a traffic management plan that would protect our campers who are mainly children that would be to our satisfaction?
Thank you for your questions. I will ask the Director of Development Services to respond to all 3 questions, please.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the questions. In response to question 1, the development application is on tonight's agenda at item 10.1.3, which is a proposed sand industry extractive. The application proposes the excavation area having a minimum setback of 40 metres from the lot boundaries of South Western Highway and Transit Road. This setback is supplemented by the construction of a 2 metre high perimeter bund plus vegetation screening in the setback area to address both noise and dust matters. This combination of setback, bund installation and vegetation screening is proposed by the application to reflect adequate measures to address noise and dust, and this reflects the 2013 approval granted by the State Initiative Tribunal. Officers in their assessment have identified further requirements that need to form part of dust control, specifically securing a groundwater resource to establish and maintain sprinklers and supplies for water carts to control dust. Conditions have also been recommended to provide detailed management plans in order to safeguard this ongoing regulation of amenity matters. The planning framework does not provide for compensation to be considered as a relevant planning matter. Rather, the planning framework requires all developments and all developers within the Shire to operate in accordance with a valid approval and the conditions associated with such, and to ensure amenity levels are suitably protected. And just to reiterate, this matter is for Council's consideration tonight. In response to question 2 pertaining to dust mitigation strategies, the application originally proposed that perimeter bunds and vegetation be the primary structural mechanisms to provide windbreaks and wind screening to control dust. As part of the officer assessment, it is noted that the vegetation buffer will slow down the speed of wind, thus limiting the potential for sand particle liftoff. The application also proposed that operations would be temporarily halted when the wind was sufficiently strong to produce excessive dust. As part of the officer assessment, however, it has been further recommended that a site-specific dust management plan be required that identifies securing groundwater resources in order to implement and maintain a regime of sprinklers and supplies for water cuts to control dust on internal access ways and open extraction areas. This is for Council to consider this evening. In response to question 3 regarding Transit Road, the use of Transit Road is not proposed by the development and is not permitted to occur should the application be approved by Council based on the officer recommendation. Thank you. Thanks.
Could I please ask Mr. Alfred Mariasaurus to please come forward regarding item 10.1.1, proposed radio, TV and communications installation to telecommunications tower and associated infrastructure, lot 11, 10 Charles Court, Byford. Not here. Is Mr. Mariasaurus here? A written response will be provided to Mr. Mariasaurus from the CEO and mailed out in due course. Could I please ask Mr. Bill Denham to come forward and read your questions this evening?
Councillors, officers, thanks for the answer regarding last month's thing. I don't think I worded my question right, so have another crack at this. How much would it cost to upgrade the existing Mundijong netball courts and supplementary facilities to a standard that is compliant with the current standards, and 2, will cater for the long-term future needs of the netball sporting community for approximately 10 to 20 years? Thanks.
Thank you for your question. I will ask the Director of Infrastructure Services to respond to your question this evening, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the question, Mr. Denham. For upgrades of this complexity and significance, especially in the current construction market and age of the facility, producing accurate estimates of this infrastructure would require the preparation of a project initiation document, which would include council mandate, project objectives and expected benefits, scope, engineering services report, feasibility, including land matters and life cycle and operational costs, project governance, geotechnical report, preliminary stakeholder needs analysis. I'll read the rest of the answer for you. In accordance with the Shire's project management framework, this project initiation document would be considered by the project change board before budget consideration by council. With respect to long-term future needs, the feasibility would need to examine whether it would be possible to house the required number of courts and associated infrastructure, such as car parking at the Munjong site.
That might not be possible to expand.
So that will be determined following the feasibility study.
Okay, thank you.
Could I please ask Mr Rob Blackburn of Byford regarding item 10.1.3, proposed sand industry extractive, lot 6 and lot 100 Jarrahdale Road, Jarrahdale, to come forward and read your questions, please. Yes, thank you.
These questions are regarding lot 100, the sand pit, Jarrahdale Road, at 100 Jarrahdale Road. Question 1, where is the water coming from for dust control? It's not allowed to be used scheme water and no bores, as all the groundwater allocation has been issued.
Thank you for the question. I will ask the Director of Development Services to respond to this first question, please.
Thank you, Madam President. A suitable groundwater supply would need to be demonstrated as part of assessing the dust management plan, which currently forms recommended condition D of the officer report to council. Current Department of Water and Environment regulation mapping indicates groundwater allocation availability. However, this is for the applicant to investigate and gain the necessary approvals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As we all know, that the east wind starts late at night. So what are they doing late at night when the east winds start to cause the sand drift across the southwestern highway?
Thank you for the second question. I'll ask the Director of Development Services to respond to this question, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the question. So the dust management plan will need to demonstrate how dust is to be managed at all times to comply with the Department of Water and Environment regulation, environmental protection, ambient air measures. Currently, the application includes construction of a 2 metre high perimeter bund plus vegetation screening in the setback area to address dust. This combination of setback, bund installation and vegetation screening reflects the 2013 approval, which was issued by the State Administrative Tribunal. Officers in their assessment have identified further requirements that need to form part of dust control, specifically securing a groundwater resource to establish and maintain sprinklers and supplies for water carts to control dust. And this is for Council's consideration on tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Who do we contact if there is an issue after normal business hours, and who is liable for the damage to our stock and property?
Thank you for the third question. I'll ask the Director of Development Services to respond this evening, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the question. As part of the condition requiring a site-specific dust management plan, this would need to include details of a 24/7 contact 24/7 365 contact in order for nearby landowners to raise any amenity concerns with the operator and for the operator to immediately address such concerns consistent with the approved dust management plan. Additionally, concerns could be reported at any time via the Shire's customer request module available on demand on the Shire's website. In terms of property damage, this would be a private matter for a landowner to pursue, and officers are not able to comment on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I please ask Ms Karen McEwen to come forward and read your questions this evening?
My questions are related to Permacast facility on Robertson Road. Firstly, Permacast arranged a dilapidation report of our house using the method. The technician that did the report advised me that she had done many similar reports. So I asked her if the residents were as close as we are to the Permacast facility. She advised me that she has never seen anything so big, so close to a residence. What other heavy industry facilities comparable to this in size to Thermocast are located 100 metres from a residence?
Thank you for your first question this evening. I will ask the Director of Development Services to respond, please.
Yes, thank you for the question, and through you, Madam President. The Shire does not have any equivalent concrete product making industries of this nature and scale in its district, so it's difficult to devise on distances other than in accordance with the state government guideline.
This facility has apparently several government contracts for infrastructure projects, as well as contracts with private companies. Have you informed the relevant government organisations and private companies that the facility will be using equipment that they do not have approvals to construct or operate to fulfil their contracts? In fact, they have not even applied for approvals for some of that equipment as yet.
Would you like to finish your question?
That was the third, but I'll go ahead. Do you think that this situation is fair to other potential tenderers that are legally and ethically operating with all the relevant approvals in place?
Thank you. Your second question and third question have been listed together. So I'll ask the Director of Development Services to respond to those questions together, please.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the question. So in accordance with the Shire's planning responsibilities, the retrospective development application has been referred. Is that better? No? Test, test, test. Is that any better? Try again. Yeah, is that any better?
Madam President, it's probably just worth noting that the responses to the questions will be available in the minutes anyway for the public to review and listen to the audio recording as well.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Director?
Okay, I'll try to voice these a bit louder. So in accordance with the Shire's planning responsibilities, the retrospective development application has been referred to the State Government Department of Water and Environment Regulation for comment. The Shire has also made this department aware of complaints pertaining to environmental emissions that we've received. Any and all issues regarding state government contracts should be referred to the state government for comment.
Thank you. I can hear you much better now. You're speaking up a bit.
Could I please ask Mr. Jack McEwen to come forward and read your questions this evening, please?
Good evening, everyone. Could the councillor please explain the exact retrospective approval process that will occur with regards to Permacast and what role the Shire councillors, DERWA and MODA will play in the process?
Thank you for your first question this evening. I'll ask the Director of Development Services to provide a response, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the question. So Shire officers have received a development application for a general industry, bracket concrete product making, closed bracket, which seeks approval for both retrospective and further prospective elements of development on the site occupied by Permacast. Given the estimated cost of development, this application is required to be determined by the Metro Outer Joint Development Assessment Panel, or MODAP for short. Officers are required to progress the application through the development assessment phases including public advertising and planning assessment, and this includes referral to state government agencies. Officers are then required to prepare a responsible authority report recommendation for council to consider endorsing to be the local government recommendation to the MODAP. Once council considers the responsible authority report, the MODAP or the Metro Outer Development Assessment Panel will convene to determine the application.
Yep. Are the retrospective approval applications publicly available?
Thank you for your second question. I'll ask the Director of Development Services to provide a response, please.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, most certainly they are. The application was advertised on the Shire's Your Say SJ web platform. Details can still be found at the URL, which I can provide to you after the meeting, but I have got it listed here, www.yoursaysj.sj.wa.gov.au/PA23-198, which basically means planning application 23 in the year 2023, number 198 that we've received.
The facility has expended large sums of money in relation to expansion that has not been approved. They would not have expended the money unless they were sure of a positive outcome. In fact, the manager, Antonia Ferreira, advised us that they already had all the licenses and approvals of the entire site. And he's actually seen that, he said. In this retrospective approval process, is this retrospective approval process just formality, a sham? Can you prove it to us that it's not?
Thank you for your third question this evening. I will ask the Director of Development Services to provide a response, please.
Thank you, Madam President, and certainly thank you for the question. It's a very important question, and I must reiterate that any application is neither a formality nor a sham in this local government. All applications, whether they're retrospective or prospective or a combination of the two, are required to be assessed on their planning merits and reported to the Development Assessment Panel for determination.
So how do you justify them spending that money and then telling them not to actually operate? How is it possible?
Well, I guess importantly, we're still in the planning assessment phase and we'll be reporting into a future council meeting, as I said in my answer to the previous question.
Can I please ask Ms. Kalia Pillay to come forward and ask your questions this evening?
This is regarding permafrost as well. What chemical additives are added to the concrete during the process?
Thank you for your question. I will ask the Director of Development Service to please provide a response to your first question this evening.
Thank you, Madam President. All the details which have been provided to the Shire by the applicant about chemical processes added during the casting process are included in the publicly available information on the Shire's Your Say SJ webpage.
And please explain how the permacast facility benefits us, considering the downsides of noise and traffic commencing at approximately 4:30, including dust and pollution.
Thank you for your second question this evening. I'll ask the Director of Development Services to provide a response, please.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the question. This development application, like all development applications, are required to be assessed on their merits, and that will include detailed consideration and assessment of potential amenity impacts. Certainly the written submissions and complaints we've received from nearby landowners are required under planning law to be given appropriate regard in our assessment process, and that has to occur.
Can I please ask Mr. Jesse McEwen to come forward and ask your questions this evening?
Thank you. My questions are also in regards to the permacast facility. Can you please explain how the facility seems to be designed in a piecemeal fashion with approval for bits and pieces? Do you have an understanding of the entire plant operation and the external impacts?
Thank you for your first question this evening. I will ask the Director of Development Services to please provide a response.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the question. The aspect of the development that is not approved is the general industry concrete product making aspect, which I understand dates back to around 2006. Previous approvals have been granted for an on-site concrete batching facility, which was granted in 2021, and also the hard stand and storage area on the corner of Southwestern Highway and Norman Road, which has been recently approved.
Thank you. The Cardup Business Park and the West Mundijong Business Park, both zoned for general industry, which includes heavy industry, are a mere 5 kilometres apart, with a bunch of privately owned properties, such as ours, sandwiched in between. When do you plan to develop the West Mundijong Business Park, and what consequences do you foresee for the residents trapped between the two business parks?
Thank you for your second question this evening. I'll ask the Director of Development Services to please provide you with a response.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the question. The Shire has advanced the planning framework for the West Mundijong industrial area, but it is not the Shire's role to develop the privately owned land in that industrial area. 2 existing industries are located within the West Mundijong industrial area, and officers also note that subdivision approval has been secured for a further 8-lot industrial subdivision to expand opportunities for new industrial development to locate or existing development to relocate to. Officers understand that the current subdivision approval is awaiting further information in terms of power supply infrastructure. The Shire has recently received a request to comment on a preliminary Metropolitan Region Scheme amendment, which seeks to rezone the Cardup Business Park from industry to urban. And this is intended to be presented to Council for consideration in August. Thank you.
Can I please ask Mr. Norm Anderson to come forward and ask your question this evening, please?
Thank you. This is regarding the permacast facility as well. We have been advised by real estate agents that the value of properties 1 to 2 kilometres from the facility will decrease substantially. Will our rates substantially be reduced as well?
Thank you for your question. I will ask the Director of Corporate Services to respond to your question this evening.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, Mr. Anderson. Rates are based upon valuations undertaken by the State Government Valuer General Office using their valuation methodology. If you disagree with their valuation, the Valuer General Office provides avenues for appeal. Changes in land values will affect your rates.
Thank you.
Could I please ask Mrs. Lee Bond to come forward and ask your questions this evening?
Shire buildings are included in extinguisher services payment of $14,724.60. What did this service include?
Thank you for your first question this evening, Mrs. Bond. I will ask the Director of Infrastructure Services to supply you with a response.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the question, Mrs. Bond. Purchase order number PU 009421 for KIO for the amount of $14,724.60 was for fire equipment and emergency lighting testing at the following 42 Shire facilities. So there's a list of the facilities below. I won't read them out for you, but I can make the list of the buildings available for you later.
Explain what is meant by feature survey.
Thank you for your second question this evening, Mrs. Bond. I will ask the Director of Infrastructure to supply you with a response.
Through you, Madam President. A feature survey is a topographical survey of a particular area of land where horizontal and vertical coordinates of the land are measured at a specified interval and recorded in a specific grid. This survey will also include identifying type and geographical location of any assets or other features within the area of land. For example, trees, drainage assets, buildings, etc. As an example, a feature survey is required to inform the detailed design of infrastructure projects, and the survey is undertaken by qualified professional surveyors.
Holmes Road is a very short road and a progress payment of $102,854.74 for resurfacing. How many more progress payments and what are the amounts? Darling Downs Trails refurbishment of $59,730 and other payments to this group in the past. Why hasn't any money been budgeted for a proper and safe Shire pound when the pound has been neglected for 30 years plus? And these other events are given priority over the safety and well-being of people's animals.
Thank you for your third question this evening, Mrs. Bond. I will ask the Director of Infrastructure Services to provide you with a response.
Through you, Madam President, this amount, $102,854.74, was the payment to the contractor for their first and final claim for the resurfacing of Holmes Road. There are no further payments to be made for Holmes Road resurfacing works. In regards to the pound, the draft council plan currently out for advertising includes reference to the development of a new depot and pound as a major initiative for the development in the medium term, in brackets, for a period of 4 to 6 years.
4 to 6 years.
4 to 6 years. It's a medium term in terms of the.
I guess it's not important.
Could I please ask Mr. Christopher Jacobs to come forward and ask your questions this evening?
Everyone understands that people experience tough financial times and have debts. This is not an issue. What is an issue, however, is ratepayers being misled. And Madam President, on page 10 of 195 in the July Special Electors Meeting agenda, your answer to my question taken on notice read, and I quote, "is not a crime to have a debt." This answer would imply to me, and I assume the ratepayers of SJ Shire, that you, Madam President, have some level of awareness to the outstanding debt associated with your rates, even though you stated at the OCM May 15th and later in the Examiner newspaper that you first learned of court proceedings at the May OCM. Given this statement implies you knew of the rate debt, I again ask Madam President to sign a stat deck. As a reminder, the stat deck would be as follows: confirming that her statement in the May OCM and then the Examiner is correct, that you, Madam President, did not receive any of the post or other notifications advising of the rates debt from the Shire, the Shire's lawyers, or any court of Western Australia,
that you, Madam President, were not otherwise aware of whether the court proceedings relating to your unpaid rates until the May OCM when the issue were raised?
Thank you for your first question this evening, Mr Jacobs. I will advise that the question will be taken on notice in accordance with Council Policy 1.1.3, public question and public statement time. Ordinary Council meeting, and a written response will be provided to you.
On page 10 of 195 in the July special electors meeting agenda, in answer to a question from Mr Gary Tomlinson at the general electors meeting on 14th June 2023, you, Madam President, responded with, "I did not deny knowledge." It appears to me that by this statement, Madam President is now saying that she did have knowledge of unpaid rates and or the court action. Can you, Madam President, reconcile for the SJ ratepayers your statement, "I did not deny knowledge," against previous statements? For example, at the May OCM on the night where you, as the President, stated you were unaware of court proceedings relating to your unpaid rates, and in the Examiner article later dated May 25th where you said you learnt of it at the May OCM.
Thank you for your second question tonight, Mr Jacobs. I will advise that this question will be taken on notice in accordance with Council Policy 1.1.3, public question and public statement time. Ordinary Council meeting, a written response will be provided to you.
Thank you.
That brings public question time to a conclusion at 7:36 p.m. this evening. Item 3 on tonight's agenda is public statement time. Can I please ask Mr John Kirkpatrick to come forward and read your statement this evening? Mr Kirkpatrick is still not here. We will move on. Mr Michael Van Den Doel of Mundijong, would you like to come forward and read your statement, please?
Good evening, Madam President, Michelle Rich and councillors. May I again refer you to the footpath petition submitted to the SJ Shire Council late last year. On behalf of the petitioners, I again ask you urgently to consider this matter in your final budget discussions and or as you put together the draft budget so that the proposed footpath on Adonis Street and Richardson Street may be approved to be constructed in the 2023-2024 financial year. Of the 100 local residents who signed the petition, there are a significant number of aged members who mentioned they would get out and about more and use the local shops if there was a footpath. We also have at least 2 disabled people who use the 2 above mentioned roads to get around, and then there's the children and the kids commuting to the local primary school who have to jump curbs when cars are approaching. This petition isn't about asking for a footpath on every road in town that doesn't have one. This petition is about giving all the local residents an equal opportunity to get around town safely, from the able-bodied people to those who aren't so able-bodied. We look forward to seeing the outcome of the approved budget soon. On behalf of the petitioners, thank you.
Thank you. Can I please ask Mr Alfred Maria Soros to come forward and read your statement this evening? Could I please ask Mr Bill Denham to come forward and read your statement this evening?
Madam President, my statement's in regarding to agenda item 9.1, the Westport one. Members in the community have many ratepayers scratching their heads and asking many questions. The word is, and there's an idea regarding relocating the sporting precinct from Keenan Street, West Mundijong industrial area, or the surrounding buffer zone that's being circulated. But surely this isn't true. It's called the industrial zone or buffer zone for a reason. The air, water or soil may be polluted. Sport is to help people have better mental and physical health. The ratepayers go to the beach, the bush, the river, even the dam, Serpentine and Wollongong. to relax, walk the dog, go with the family, etc., not go to an industrial site. A lot of effort and time needs to be from a function centre, etc., in the street, so that the Shire would be able to hire out the community for weddings, etc. Who wants a wedding at an industrial site or a buffer zone? It would be like putting a school in the site. It's crazy. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I please ask Mr. Norm Anderson to come forward and read your statement this evening?
I live directly across from the permacast facility. My fence line is 99 metres from the facility fence to my boundary. I would like to bring your attention to some of the issues we face. Firstly, dust. We are inundated with dust from the facility during the warmer months when we have strong easterly winds. We had to seal vents in our house to prevent dust from coming in. I had to vacuum the pool every day because the pool shutter could not keep up the amount of dust that blows in. The facility has stated that they would manage the dust using water trucks. However, they do not manage the dust, or whatever they are doing isn't effective. Secondly, the gantry cranes above the concrete pit is approximately 120 metres in from their boundary fence opposite me. The noise from this pit is so loud that I can't hear my television inside my own house. The noise is a continuous droning noise with no relief. On Saturday, the 15th of July, the noise started at 5:30 a.m. and carried on all day. The machinery noise was even present on Sunday, the 16th of July. We have no peace. This has to stop. Thirdly, the water. We bought our house 8.5 years ago. We had our bore water tested at the time. It was good quality, and we rely on this water for all our uses, including drinking, cooking, and is very concerned about the chemicals of the facility that are leaching into the groundwater. And as I've already covered, the real estate has warned us that the value of properties will be substantially reduced. This is particularly alarming because some people have paid over $1 million for their properties. Buffer zone. There is no buffer zone between the facility and the residents. Carter is the buffer zone. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement this evening. Can I please ask Ms. Karen McEwen to come forward and read your statement this evening?
My statement relates to the permacast facility. I will be opening my statement by reading out from the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale webpage. First dot point under the duties of a councillor being represent the interests of elected ratepayers and residents. Represent our interest above all others. There is no mention of representing the interests of industry or the Department of Planning. In the last Shire meeting, we were advised that the land which the permacast facility operates from is zoned as general industry. It was only after the meeting that we actually came to the horrifying understanding of what general industry stands for. It is basically any industry, excluding light industry and a few other industries. Basically, general industry includes heavy industry. Let me define heavy industry. Heavy industry refers to an industry that produces large industrial products for infrastructure, mining, and oil and gas industries, which requires large and heavy machinery and facilities and involves complex production processes. The following statement is from the Permacast website. Permacast is West Australia's leading supplier of precast and pre-stressed concrete products for the state's major infrastructure, oil and gas, and resources industry projects. Basically, Permacast defines itself as a heavy industry. US councillors have approved a heavy industry to establish itself less than 100 metres from local residences, less than a kilometre from a school. By enabling that operation, you betrayed your primary duty. You did not represent the interests of the electors, ratepayers, and residents. US councillors have approved a by calling it a general industry, by glossing over the fact that it is a heavy industry, you lower the bar. You make it sound benign rather than something that has a huge adverse impact on us, who you are meant to be representing as your primary duty, and subsequently the controls placed on it are reduced. I will also discuss some of the answers to questions that were taken on notice at the last Shire meeting. The response to the question, what are the components of concrete, was that Portland cement contains di- and tricalcium silicates, calcium aluminoferrite, and tricalcium aluminate. According to all the Australian and West Australian MSDSs that I have looked at, Portland cement also contains chromium-6, which is carcinogenic, and silica, which of course causes silicosis. The dust management plan prepared by an independent contractor on behalf of the facility reports on easterly wind patterns in summer that blow directly through the facility and basically onto our residences. Furthermore, this report states that buffer zones of this type of industry are 1 to 1.5 kilometers. We certainly get a huge amount of dust blowing onto our property from the facility, as do our nearest neighbours. There have been no studies conducted that show how far the dust is actually carried. By calling this facility a general industry and ignoring the advice by professionals and Shire officers regarding the appropriate buffer zones for this facility, it is allowed to operate, although it is less than 100 metres from the closest residences and less than 1 kilometre from a school. The responses to questions regarding the effects of the operation of that operation to groundwater, tank water, and long-term health, in short, was that planning framework still seeks to limit all offsite impacts. Well, there has been no action to limit offsite impacts to date. Some water is sent to an unsealed dam, while most of it flows into an unsealed drain and subsequently onto private land, one of the identified sensitive residences. Neither the Shire nor DWER seem to be able to control the offsite impacts of this facility, with operation being a mere fraction in size to what it will be if approved. In fact, no one seems to have the authority to stop the facility from illegally increasing its size or operating. The response to the question regarding what actions have been taken to protect us was that the Shire has written emails and called DWER. In other words, no protections have been put in place to date. The facility is allowed to operate at any time of the day or night, emit whatever noise or dust or water pollution with no controls in place. The first and primary duty of a councillor is to represent the interests of the electors, ratepayers and residents. Disappointingly, councillors appear to be ignoring their primary duty, and in doing so have not only not protected the community, you have put us in a position of discomfort, stress, and potential ill health. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement. Can I please ask Mr. Jesse McEwen to come forward and read your statement this evening?
I would like to reinforce that the first and primary duty of a councillor is to represent the interests of electors, ratepayers and residents. I've been living in Carter since I was 2 years old. Now, I myself am looking at buying this area, but in light of the issues my parents and myself have been facing, I seriously reconsider living here. An independent environmental consultancy company, Ascendo, prepared the dust management plan for the permacast facility. This was presented at the ordinary council meeting on the 16th of August 2021. This company drew buffer zones of 500 metres, 1 kilometre and 1.5 kilometres from the boundary of the entire site. This drawing demonstrated that the site area was inappropriate for the safety and well-being of nearby residences and school. And this was backed up by the Shire officers that spoke at the meeting. To get approval, another drawing was provided. This drawing called 500-metre buffer zone. This did not cover the entire facility, but instead a 500-metre ring was drawn around a single point inside the facility. And this point was chosen because the cement batching plant was supposed to be operating here. But the source of noise and dust certainly exceeds this single point. This supposed buffer, I would just like to hand out pictures to the public showing these buffer zones and the two differences. Please pass these around. We cannot understand how it is possible that despite expert opinion, this cement batching plant was given DWER approval. It is licensed to operate at 146,000 tonnes per year. Its actual design capacity is far higher at 280,000 tonnes per year. So there is no doubt that the facility plans to operate at a much higher rate than it currently has license for. We can hear the noise, which we believe is the batching plant operating all day and late into the night. The facility continues to expand, seeking retrospective approvals with no concern that it will be handed to it on a plate. An example of this is that it has already commenced the construction and operation of the casting plant, which approvals have not yet been applied for. Neither the Shire nor Derwa seems to have the authority to stop the facility from illegally increasing size or operating outside its means. It did not have the appropriate buffer zones for the initial smaller plant it applied for, and certainly does not have a buffer zone for this much larger operation. The councillors need to stand up and protect their residents and ratepayers.
Thank you for your statement this evening. Can I please ask Ms. Keela Pillay to come forward and read your statement this evening?
I am going to bring your attention to State Planning Policy 4.1, Industrial Interface, which is the State Industrial Buffer Policy. Section 3 of this document is entitled Industrial Interface Planning, and I will quote from this section. The relevant decision maker is responsible for considering A, potential risks to health and amenity of people and the environment. B, any future strategic land use plans for the area, including potential long-term expansion of industrial land uses. Basically, the first point is that the decision makers need to consider the people, us. When making decisions about permacast, the very first consideration you need to give, based on the Department of Planning Lands and Heritage Policy 4.1, is the potential risk of this facility on the health and amenity of us, the residents and the environment. I work at Armidale Hospital with vulnerable patients that I have to be able to give 100% to. I can't do that when I'm woken up over 2 hours early by heavy machinery, noise pollution. My home is meant to be a place of calm and serenity, especially after a long day looking after sick patients. Now, I don't want to come home. My home is a place of distress and anxiety. The operation of permacast already impacts on the residents with its noise, dust, and pollution. There are potential long-term effects on the larger population in terms of its impacts on dust and groundwater. This facility has been granted contracts for the Byford Railway extension. They will no doubt increase in both output volume, working hours, and staff numbers. There will be a consummate increase in traffic, noise, dust, and other pollution. Permacast is located too close to residences without any significant buffer between the facility and our homes. The size of the land is way too small for the size of the operation, and it is impossible to have no off-site impacts. There is no room for a heavy industry in this area. We understand the motivation for the Shire to promote industry due to financial and employment benefits. However, in this circumstance, it is at the cost of the residents. This facility should be moved to a suitable location where it can grow and expand its operation without external impacts. Please do your duty and represent the interests of electors, ratepayers and residents. Abide by the State Planning Policy 4.1 and first and foremost, consider the potential risks to health and amenity of the people and the environment. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement this evening. Can I please ask Miss Karen McEwen to come forth on behalf of Miss Maureen Tukey and read her statement, please.
Maureen is one of our neighbours and she's too ill to attend. This is her statement. The residents living close to this facility are woken up at 4:30 in the morning, 5 to 6 days a week. As the employees of the facility race to work, many along Harbour Drive, turning right onto Soldiers Road, then left onto Normal Road and back down Robertson Road. By 5 a.m, the lights on the facility are blaring and the hammering, machinery and alarms begin. And so it continues through the day. If we are lucky, the vibrating machine is not turned on. If it is, we are subject to the most horrendous, sickening noise. There have been several days when this noise continued until 7 p.m. On Saturday the 15th, the type of milling, grinding noise started at around 5:30 a.m. and continued until around 2 p.m. At night and early morning, we can hear a low-frequency type humming noise, which is possibly the concrete batch plant operating. The facility operated on Sunday the 16th, and we had to put up with their machinery banging and hammering. We were woken up at 2:30 a.m. this morning by machinery mixing noise. We believe this is from the operation of the concrete batching plant. This facility has a huge impact on our lives. Vibrating noise, when it is going, is like a form of torture. You cannot escape the noise inside the house and definitely cannot sit or work outside. No one would want to live here, and it has already impacted the value of our properties. Once it is fully operational, it will be impossible to live here and we will not be able to sell our property. We are anxious about what it is going to be like living here as this facility continues to increase operation. We are stressed about the decreasing value of our property. Your duty as a councillor and represent the interests of electors, ratepayers and residents. Thank you.
Thank you for reading that statement out this evening. Could I please ask Mr. Jack McEwen to come forward and read your statement this evening?
Thank you, everyone. Famous quote of John Steinbeck is a very appropriate way of describing our situation and despair. Only one can understand the situation once you are involved in it yourself. I bet everybody sitting in front of me and the Permacast staff, none of them live around the sensitive zone. Therefore, you can't understand what's actually going on. Don't believe it. The quote is so applicable to the dire situation that we find ourselves in, living in close proximity to an uncontrollable facility which has managed to expand and operate without full approval, while not meeting many of the conditions of the initial approval that was passed by Council in August 2021. There were dust breaches by the facility throughout the summer months, as witnessed and experienced by residents directly west of the facility and less than 100-meter boundary to boundary. Storm water flows from the facility onto private land. Little, if any, flows into the drainage basin. The drainage basin on the property is not sufficiently large to hold all the stormwater. Heavy haulage double trucks are regularly used by the facility. I have photographic evidence of it. The trucks servicing the facility regularly access the facility via Norman Road and Soldiers Road in direct contravention of approval conditions. The statements made by the residents prior to 2021 approvals contained similar issues to what we are experiencing, that is noise, dust, groundwater, pollution. Council disregarded the concerns of the residents, experts and Shire officials and granted approval anyway. The decision by Council has had most dire effects on everyone concerned. The residents have lost their basic right to sleep, their peace and security in their homes. The facility cannot operate without impacting the residents and the environment because the land gain is too small and there is no buffer zone, adequate buffer zone. They certainly cannot expand their operation. The Shire seems to have no ability to control what the facility is doing. And we have no idea what Durwa is doing. It's time for you to fix the situation, not send it into a worsening spiral. The facility is a prescribed premise. And this is because it's producing more than 100,000 tonnes per year of cement. Yet it is continuously causing off-site impacts, that is dust, noise, light and water. It is breaching the Environmental Protection Act by not only constructing but also operating the plant without a license. It is absolutely ludicrous that Council can even consider extending its initial approvals, let alone retrospective approvals for the expanded operation. Please do your duty, represent us, the ratepayers, and don't lower the bar. That's exactly what you people have done. Thank you.
Thank you for your statement this evening. Can I please ask Mrs. Lee Bond to come forward and read your statement this evening?
CEO recently informed me that $50,000 had been budgeted for proper lighting for the intersections of Hopkinson, Orton and Hopkinson and Abernethy roads. Why hasn't this been done as a matter of urgency, given the deaths on these two intersections? I note a lot of spending on mowing and slashing in the glades, but still many ratepayers in the Shire cannot get their drains cleaned or verges mowed, and there are plenty of trees growing in the road bitumen. One day they will grow to adult and damage the roads. And nothing motivates the Shire to rectify this before the damage and unnecessary expense. However, it appears it is okay to waste ratepayers' money to inflict behaviour onto ratepayers who have not sought nor require interference with their verges because they have managed them for more than 20 years and continue to do so. Throwing carcinogens into verge drains and then claiming there is no water in those drains is despicable. Paying the contractor to loiter in the street is not a productive use of ratepayers' money either. Isn't it council policy to encourage ratepayers when they wish to look after their verges? Is it appropriate behaviour to divulge information to particular people about my questions and statements before council meetings? And is it appropriate to contact people before the meetings and question people about my questions and statements? And if I drip blood all over your damn floor, it's because of your carcinogens you're spraying in the street that I don't want there. And there is blood in my mask. It's been there all night. I can't stop it bleeding.
Thank you for your statement this evening. Can I please ask Miss Kelly Berry of Byford to come forward and read your statement this evening?
Good evening, everyone. I hope I'm able to get through this statement without any interruptions from councillors this time, unlike the electors meeting where I was constantly and rudely interrupted by a sitting councillor. On the 22nd of March 23, I requested via email to Councillor Coles a copy of his certificate from the company director's course the Shire paid $7,235 for. On the 15th of May, almost 2 months later, and several requests and even a warning of defamation from Councillor Coles, I did finally receive his certificate. Councillor Coles informed me he had to request the certificate from the Institute of Company Directors as he was moving house. Following the last AIG meeting in May, Councillor Coles asked me if I had any questions regarding the certificate. I asked if this was the only certificate he received, to which he replied, "That is all they gave me." The certificate received is a statement of attendance certificate. Upon emailing the Institute myself, they have confirmed in writing a graduate certificate is only given to those who have passed the course. This means that they have attended the required course statement of attendance, and have passed all 3 assessments. A statement of attendance, however, confirms they have attended the required course dates. This can be provided to a graduate if they require it to prove they attended the course. However, from our point of view, this is somewhat redundant, as if they have received our graduate certificate, it is a given that they attended the required course dates. The statement of attendance is usually reserved for those that have attended the required course dates but have not attempted or passed the 3 assessments. They can, however, return to complete the assessments at a later date if they are so inclined. So if someone has passed the 3 assessments, they could technically provide you with both a statement of attendance and a graduate certificate. But if they only hand you a graduate certificate, then you know they've also attended the course, and you don't need any other record to prove that they attended the course. Also, if someone has the post-nominals GAICD after their name, it means they have passed the company director's course and also hold a current membership subscription with us. If someone only sat through the course without attempting or passing the assessments, they will only be able to provide you with a statement of attendance. I have this email in writing should the Shire or councillors like to see it. I have also called the Australian Institute of Company Directors, and they have stated that the course fee includes 1 attempt of all the required assessments. They have also said that a graduate has full access to resources. They said that people become members in order to access those resources if they are not graduates. By Councillor Cole's own admission on his Shire profile, he states that he is an associate of the Institute of Company Directors. Again, there is no such category. Should Councillor Coles mean that he is a member instead of an associate, or if they're interchangeable in Councillor Coles' minds, then by his own admission, he is not a graduate. This is more than enough evidence to prove that Councillor Coles did not complete the course paid for in 2018 by the Shire, and has hidden this back, whether deliberately or not, for the past 5 years. The councillors and Shire must recoup these misused funds by Councillor Coles immediately, plus interest, for the delay in this information being disclosed. The perception by ratepayers is that this council is corrupt. Prove them all wrong. Do the right thing by ratepayers in this Shire. Put those funds to better use. I also request that you don't make this a confidential item to hide it, and please record the names in tonight's voting.
Thank you for your statement this evening. That concludes public statement time this evening at 8:09 p.m. Item 4 is petitions and deputations. Can I please ask Mr. Mark Bade, Planning Consultant, SAQ Consulting, regarding item 10.1.1, proposed radio, TV and communication installation, telecommunications tower and associated infrastructure at lot 1110 Charlotte Court, Oakford, to come forward and read your deputation this evening.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, councillors. I'm here to speak about item 10.1.1, which is the planning application for a telecommunications facility at 10 Charlotte Court in Oakford.
My name is Mark Barty from SAQ Consulting, and I'm the planning consultant for Australia Tower Network, or ATN, as they're also known, and Optus on this application. The proposed facility, which consists of a monopole, antennas and ground-based equipment, will provide improved Optus coverage to the suburbs of Oakford and Byford, as well as the existing and future transport network in the area, which includes the Thompson Highway extension. As discussed in the planning statement accompanying the application, current Optus infrastructure in the wider area is located between 2 and 4 kilometres from the selected location, and additional infrastructure is required to properly service the area, with customer demand and growing population area too great for the existing network to manage. Indeed, in-building coverage in the area, particularly in Byford, is poor and data speeds are slow, especially during peak times. And both of these issues are the result of existing infrastructure being too far away to adequately service the area. In fact, there are no telecommunications facilities of this type within 1.85 kilometres of the nominated location, which is too far away for co-location as well. However, the proposed facility will support co-location, which is of course a desirable outcome. A recent request of council staff, following the recent request of council staff, Optus have provided some coverage map information relating to the existing situation and the proposed outcome should the proposed facility be constructed and become part of the Optus network. I'm not sure if they have been distributed. So there are 2 sheets that have been distributed. The existing coverage, which is the map with all the green on it, that indicates the signal strength required for a reliable high band service, which provides indoor coverage. And it's also the default frequency band that Optus use to provide much of the data connectivity to customers. And it demonstrates exactly what is described in the planning application. The proposed coverage map, which is the one with the red in the middle, shows good coverage levels provided by the proposed facility across much of Oakford and Byford and integrates well with the existing Optus facility to the north at Hilbert. As such, there's no doubt the proposed facility will make substantial improvements to the surrounding area and will also support the continued growth in the area, including the increasing importance of the road network. Due to the commercial and confidence nature of the maps, they are not for distribution, but should provide council as decision maker with the confidence they need, you need for the facility, with the confidence that the need for the facility is clearly established. With respect to the proposed facility itself, it is set back from Hopkinson Road, substantially screened in all directions by existing tree cover, including the creek and riparian reserve to the north, with no vegetation removal required to construct, operate or maintain.
Can members of the public gallery please be quiet while the deputation is presented to council, please?
Thank you, Madam President. With no vegetation removal required to construct, operate or maintain the facility, along with no loss of habitat occurring. While some concerns have been raised by surrounding owners and occupiers as to the visual impact of the facility, as normally happens, those impacts have been minimised to the extent they can be, are likely to be much more localised than perhaps imagined, and could certainly not be described as unreasonable, unacceptable or overbearing from a planning policy perspective. In reality, the proposed structure, once built, will be a relatively insignificant and not at all unusual element in this predominantly urban landscape. In terms of design, some visibility of the structure is unavoidable to allow for desired and efficient improvements to the network services and also to allow for co-location. An appropriate balance has been struck between the need and the impacts as is required by State Planning Policy 5.2. The proposed facility also demonstrates a high level of consistency with the State Planning Policy. The proposed facility is also generally consistent with the requirements of the Shire's local planning policy for telecommunications, as set out in the application documentation and also in the officer's report, including with respect to co-location, visual impact and health and safety. These issues, along with other key issues raised by submitters, have been discussed in both the planning statement lodged with the application and the response to submission letter that was dated the 8th of June 2023. In summary, the proposed facility's design and siting in this instance has demonstrated a balance between the need for improved telecommunication services in the area and an acceptable level of visual impact, which is a key consideration in emanation of these applications. I've also reviewed the recommendation for approval and associated conditions and advised that they are acceptable to the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation this evening. Can I please ask Mr. Matt Craven-Kelly, Senior Development Manager, Parcel Property, regarding item 10.1.3, proposed sand industry extractive, Lot 6 and Lot 100 Jarrahdale Road, to please come forward and present your deputation this evening.
My name is Matt Craven-Kelly and I represent the applicant of item 10.1.3, the proposed sand extraction licence. Thanks for the opportunity to provide an invitation. The applicant understands the history of the previous extraction operation undertaken on the subject site and acknowledged frustrations felt by the surrounding impacted residents. To this end, we would like to note that we are not the same applicant nor the same operator as the previous licence, and our aim is to try and reset the community's perception around those negative impacts. Whilst extracting sand is not without risks, we believe that proper planning and a coordinated approach to the work can greatly reduce the effects of sand drift and resultant effects to the surrounding residents. It is through the various management plans requirements proposed as part of the recommended approval that we work with the Shire's officers to achieve this. We note that as Perth's population grows in both our inner and outer suburbs, sand is a key resource for establishing new communities for a new generation of residents. We support the Shire's pragmatic approach in assessing the risks associated with our proposal against the continued need to provide resources to grow the community. We commit to working closely with the Shire to ensure we minimise the negative impacts to the surrounding community.
Thank you for your deputation this evening. Item 5 tonight is the President's Report. Good evening and welcome to the July Ordinary Council meeting. Youth training and employment was in the spotlight last month when Byford Secondary College hosted the first Serpentine Jarrahdale Careers and Enterprise Expo. I was proud to open the two-day expo at the Peel Chamber of Commerce, the Peel Chamber of Commerce and Industries Business After Dark event, which was a great opportunity for SJ to showcase how education, government, employers and industry collaborate to help connect young people with training and employment opportunities. At the end of June, we celebrated the outstanding contribution local firefighters and state emergency service volunteers make to our community at the Shire's annual Emergency Services Awards Night. It was an extra special evening for Mundijong volunteer Bushfire Brigade's Les Harris, who was recognised for 45 years of service, as well as Carolyn Fawcett and Christine Morris, who were both recognised for 30 years of service with the Emergency Support Brigade. Congratulations to all volunteers who were recognised with years of service certificates, and thank you to all of our emergency services volunteers for their efforts over the past year. This Wednesday, the 19th of July, marks the first anniversary of the SJ Library service operating from the Byford Hall. It was great to join with the community last Saturday for the library's first birthday celebrations, with hundreds of parents and children attending throughout the day. It is fantastic to see the library service continue to grow in Byford, as well as providing a valuable outreach service in our southern suburbs through the mobile library service. On Saturday, I was also pleased to join Jackie Jarvis, MLC, Minister for Agriculture and Food, Forestry and Small Business, with Member for Darling Range, Hugh Jones, at the SJ Farmers Market. The Minister heard from our dedicated volunteers from the Serpentine Jarrahdale Food and Farm Alliance about how vitally important peri-urban and small acre agricultural along with farmers markets are to our local communities. The Minister also spent time hearing from the Jarrahdale Forest Protectors about the importance of protecting the remaining Northern Jarrah forest from mining and other damaging industries and preserving the forest for the well-being of generations into the future. Finally, thank you to local residents who attended the Shire's draft 2023-24 budget breakfast last Thursday. The event provided attendees the opportunity to learn more about how the Shire's draft budget has been developed, how it responds to community priorities, as well as to ask questions of the Shire officers. The Shire's 2023-24 budget will be considered by Council at a special Council meeting on Monday, the 31st of July at 7 p.m. As always, my full calendar can be viewed on the following pages. Item 6 on tonight's agenda is declaration of councillors and officers' interest. Councillor David Atwell has declared a financial interest in item 10.1.1 as he is a part owner of a property within the Optus Tower He is a part owner of a property with an Optus Tower on it, and they receive a rental each year for the site. Councillor David Atwell has declared a financial interest in item 10.1.9, consideration to adopt DCP report number 4 for West Mundijong Industrial DCP and DCP report number 1 for the Mundijong Whitby Urban Traditional DCP Amendment 209, PA 18/780. The nature of the interest is financial. The extent of the interest is part owner of land in the West Mundijong Industrial Area. Councillor Atwell will leave the meeting while this item is discussed. Councillor Robert Coles has declared a financial interest in item 10.5.1. The nature of the interest is potential financial interest if motion is passed. The extent of the interest is potentially required to pay $7,235 for as per the motion per the electors meeting held on the 14th of June. Item 7 is confirmation of minutes of previous council meetings. 7.1 is the ordinary council meeting held on the 19th of June 2023. Can I please have a mover for these minutes? Thank you, Councillor Strawtons. Councillor Atwell, are you happy to second? Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to these minutes? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 8 is receipt of minutes or reports and consideration of adoption of recommendations from committee meetings held since the previous council meeting, of which there is nil. Item 9 is motions of which notice has been given. 9.1 is notice of motion, Westport Landside and Logistics Study. Can I please have a mover?
Madam President, only Councillor Mack, as it's a notice of motion, can move the motion unless he's given the written authorisation for another councillor to do that. The options available to council are that their motion could either lapse or the council could determine to defer it to a future point in time.
Motion lapses for the want of a mover. Item 10 is Chief Executive Officer reports. 10.1 is Development Services reports. 10.1.1 is proposed radio, TV and communications installation, telecommunications tower and associated infrastructure, lot 11, 10 Charlottes Court, Oakford. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder?
Madam President, I'll second it for debate only.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Duggan, would you like to open debate, please?
Certainly, thanks, Madam President. On reading the information that's been supplied to us by the proponent, it appears that all other options have been investigated. It is important that we are offering 5G network to our residents. We've seen in Whitby what happens if we have development where the placement of these telecommunication structures occur after the development has occurred, and it doesn't work. We need to be on the front foot with this. Do I feel it's an ideal position? No. It goes against my wish of having these telecommunication poles on Shire land. However, in this instance, I can see where it is required, and it is required with some urgency. So for that reason, I support the officer's recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Councillor Coles, I'm assuming you don't want to speak as the seconder?
No, I'll speak against, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Coles, would you like to speak against?
Yeah, thanks, Madam President. Councillors will be aware that I asked some questions last week in relation to this application. It is a hard one, and I guess the key thing for me is what the McEwen family said, and it resonates with me. It doesn't resonate with others at the table, but it certainly resonates with me, and that is that we are here as councillors representing
Councillor Coles, you do not have the right to speak on behalf of other councillors.
Sorry, Madam President, I missed that.
Councillor Coles, you do not have the right to speak on behalf of other councillors.
Thank you, Madam President. So I'll reiterate my point, and that is that I concur with the comment that the McEwens made, and that is that we as councillors are here to represent the interests of electors, ratepayers and residents. And I guess for us it's hard to balance the needs of what the community wants and what we think we should do as councillors. So I guess for me, we need to balance that at all times. And it's a shame the McEwens aren't here, because I think the way that they spoke tonight, they generally have the interest of the community at heart, and perhaps they should look at a option of running for council. Irrespective of that, what I would like to say is that we are here purely, as Jessie said, to stand up and protect the residents and the ratepayers. And one of the submissions that was received by council in relation to this phone tower, and it's referred to as A402687, and that is an objection to the strongest possible terms the proposed development application for a telecommunications facility in the location is being proposed. And I think this really does resonate with me. I moved with my wife into Byford in 2011, and the main reason for investing into Byford and making this my home was a country outlook which has always been synonymous with the area. I built and invested in my home at Coolbarty Loop directly because of the bushland outlook and surrounding bushland outlook when entering and leaving my property. My property value is based on location, having an outlook of open bushland and trees, which directly ties the changes this Shire applies in my rates, which is a pertinent point. Will Optus or the Serpentine Jarrahdale Shire compensate me for the effect of having to look at the top of a mobile phone tower every time I come home or spend time in my front yard, or for the effect this would have on my property value, as facilities close to your property shape the decision of property buyers when deciding on purchasing a property? The proposed Optus phone tower will directly affect my property's outlook and forever change the outlook of this area. The reason why, no doubt, my neighbours and I have purchased in this location. Telecommunications towers, whilst necessary, should be located in industrial areas or town centres where these types of structures would fit in with the environment. The planning of these types of structures should be a mandatory consideration for shires and councils to consider when planning estates to inform residents that their property location could be affected by these types of structures before investing their life savings. I strongly disapprove of this application. I don't know who that person was, but I certainly echo their concerns. So let's look now at planning, what we can do as councillors. So this is a discretionary use, and I refer all councillors to page 28 of the agenda. The proposed development will transmit and relay signals to telecommunications and is considered to meet the definition above. Under the special rural zone, the proposed telecommunication facility is an approved use, which means that council may, it's a AA use, which means that council may, at its discretion, permit the use, at our discretion. The proposal is considered capable of consideration with this zone. It further goes on to say this site has been rezoned rural residential and local planning scheme 3, and a telecommunications infrastructure land use is an approved use. This means such a land use can be considered for approval at the discretion of the Shire, subject to community consultation and consideration of any submissions. I'll say that again. This means such a land use can be considered for approval at the discretion of the Shire, subject to community consultation and consideration of the submissions. That's where I submit this application falls down. We've had numerous submissions by the community, and we can see how many people here tonight are in the gallery that do not want this infrastructure, do not want this tower, and do not want this in their backyard. I understand the concerns about telecommunications. I also understand concerns about the Tonkin Highway coming through there. And perhaps Tonkin Highway, if and when that does get developed, and we've been assured by the state government the money is there for it to be developed, and we hopefully get some more information in regards to that in the not too distant future. Perhaps that is the time when the Tonkin Highway, the land is cleared for the Tonkin Highway and the Tonkin Highway is developed. Perhaps that is the time when Optus and the other telcos can get together and look at a more suitable place for the installation of this tower. As the submission of A402687 said, I quite simply strongly disapprove the application.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Is there any other councillors that would like to speak for the motion?
Madam President, I'd like to ask a question, if I may.
Councillor Straughtons.
Thank you, Madam President. A question to Andrew Trossick, Director of Development and Planning. With regards to this tower, how common would it be for them to be installed next to highways or freeways, as we're going to have the Tonkin Highway extended? Is it quite possible in the future we could find a more suitable location, or allowable, would we find more potential locations along the edge of Tonkin Highway?
Director.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for the question. As we probably look at an example like Kwinana Freeway, towers are commonly placed alongside freeway corridors because they have to not only service communities, which are invariably always located close to transport corridors, but also have to service the demand of mobile connectivity which comes along transport corridors, whether that's a driver taking a phone call, or whether that's passengers using devices. So the information we get advised from applicants is that the demand has to be both for local residents as well as the demand which a road corridor creates as cars use that corridor.
Thank you, Madam President. If I can, a follow-on question. Director, are we aware of any urgency for this tower to be put in now? Would it make much difference if it was put in a year from now or 18 months from now?
Director.
Thank you for the question. I guess in my role as representing the planning assessment, I have to assess the application before me on its merits. The report does, in the risk section, just remind council about some of the risks in the Shire in areas which don't enjoy mobile coverage. but I can't comment on whether it's urgent today versus urgent in a year or 5 or 10 years' time. It really is a subjective measure about how people view mobile coverage in our district.
Thank you.
I will call again. Is there any other councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Duggan, would you like to close, please?
Thanks, Madam President. Just a quick response, and I thank Councillor Coles for his points. They're all very valid and pertinent, and this is an agenda item that I have the benefit of seeing what has occurred at Whitby. I have the benefit of seeing what 57 metres from a main road means, because that pole is currently in place, and with the trees around it, it does make a significant difference. When we're here to serve the residents and the ratepayers, we're here to serve those that are looking for their mobile phone coverage, as well as those who I understand are concerned about their rural amenity. When we have many people in our shire, and in fact there was just something on the radio this morning that we use this, Serpentine Jarrahdale uses the 3rd largest amount of data in Western Australia. I think that it's important that we realise that we have many people who choose to work from home. We have many people who need that coverage just to be able to pay their bills online. And when they're having constant dropouts, we are not servicing our residents both now and into the future if we don't supply this infrastructure. When I look at the placement of this infrastructure, there is a Shire Reserve behind it. There is Tonkin Highway Reserve to the west of it. There is the proponent or the applicant's land there's Tonkin Highway to the east of it. There's the applicant's land to the south and to the west of it. So in that position that it's been placed with appropriate tree coverage, and I know because I have driven Jarrahdale Lane and had a look at the area, a little difficult to see from the front of the road there, but certainly to me it is a place that is the best of the positions that we could request to make sure we are providing this service to our residents. So for that reason, I support the officer's recommendation. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Duggan. All those in favour of the motion before us? 1, 2, 3. All those against? Motion is carried 3-2. Minute Secretary, can we please have the votes recorded? Councillor Atwell, the officer's recommendation has been supported 3-2 by the councillors this evening. Item 10.1.2, proposed single house lot 1189 McNeil Grove, Jarrahdale. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.3, I have an alternate motion that I wish to move this evening. The alternate motion I wish to move incorporates the alternate officer recommendation that has been circulated to councillors and has the added wording added to point D. For water-based dust suppression, the plan must include details of either an on-site secure groundwater source or a system of storage tanks to be kept full via a secure off-site groundwater source to the Shire's satisfaction, and added wording to condition O, which is in red on the board, which reads as this is to include medium and ground level infill shrub planting to create a more complete screen. Can I please have a seconder for this alternate motion? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously.
Madam President, we will need a reason for the difference to the officer recommendation for the minutes, please.
To ensure on-site dust suppression during the operation of the sand extraction and to provide adequate screening from both Transit Road and the South West Highway. Thank you. Item 10.1.4, proposed commercial vehicle parking, lot 506 Lulu Close, Byford. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Strawtons. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.5, proposed lot boundary fence and carport extension, lot 8229 Kingsbury Drive, Jarrahdale. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.6, proposed patio, lot 1530 Grenfell Way, Byford. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.7, adoption of the annual update of the Community Infrastructure Development Contribution Plan Report number 3. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.8, consideration to adopt Development Contribution Plan Report number 7 for Development Contribution Area A, Amendment 208. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.9, consideration to adopt DCP report number 4 for West Mundijong Industrial DCP and DCP report number 1 for the Mundijong Whitby Urban Traditional DCP Amendment 209. Can I please have a mover for this motion?
Madam President, I'd like to move the slightly amended motion I circulated earlier generally, which is as per the officer's recommendation with an additional point 2. The point 2 being requests that the CEO write to the Honourable Rita Saffioti, MLA, in her capacities as WA State Treasurer and Minister for Transport, encompassing responsibility for Westport. 1, requesting financial support for the provision of essential infrastructure to service the West Mundijong industrial area, as has been provided by the state for both the Nambeela and Forestdale industrial areas situated in neighbouring municipalities. 2, advising that in relation to the Westport landside logistics options presented to Council at a briefing held earlier this year, the Council does not support option 3, being the Oakford major logistics hub, given its undermining of the Shire's local planning framework and significantly its impact on the West Mundijong industrial area. And 3, copying the correspondence to the Honourable David Michael, MLA, in his capacity as Minister supporting the Minister for Transport.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Can I have a second?
Madam President, we just might need a few couple of minutes just to get that onto the screen, if we can wait till that happens. No, she's got my time.
Okay, let's have the documents. Ask the President sitting on the floor to move outside. Okay, we'll continue this to chat so that they don't hear.
Councillor Strange, that represents your motion. Thank you.
It does, thank you, CEO, and I apologise for not getting that out earlier.
If I can, a quick question. Is that word landslide correct?
Should be landside.
Councillor Strange, are you happy with the way it reads?
Yes, thank you, Madam President.
Councillors, I'll call for a seconder for the alternate motion we have before us. Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Strange, would you like to open debate, please?
Thank you, Madam President. I'll start by saying I don't believe that there's anything controversial whatsoever in the proposed amendment before us at this time. The correspondence I'm proposing that the CEO put forward merely reflects the robust planning framework we as a council have adopted after many years working with our community, expending considerable money to arrive at a strategic direction for land use planning and development. This is merely reminding the state that we have a local planning framework that we've adopted and we need support in providing the infrastructure to West Mundijong industrial area. As it stands, the development costs are prohibitive to anyone wanting to develop West Mundijong, and the state has supported other industrial estates across the metro area. And I think that this is quite reasonable for the West Mundijong area as well. Secondly, it's asking the state to support us in terms of, it's asking the state to support us in terms of abandoning an option for the Westport landside port activities that is totally contrary to any of the planning work that's happened in the sub-region previously. We are just reminding them that we have a planning framework we've adopted and we would like their options to be reflective of that planning framework. If we're successful in gaining support from the state, whether it be financial or the decision about Westport, it will provide huge benefit in getting West Mundijong across the line. And in terms of the contribution that West Mundijong will make to the Shire and its ratepayers, it can't be understated in terms of jobs, local jobs. We are very, very deficient in local jobs at the moment. And in terms of rating revenue, the residential ratepayers foot essentially the majority of the rates burden. This is the basis for my amendment tonight, and this is why I would encourage all councillors to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. Councillor Duggan, would you like to speak or reserve?
I'll reserve, thanks, Madam President.
Thank you. Councillor Coles, would you like to speak against the motion?
Thank you, Madam President. This motion may not be controversial, but it's reckless, it's rash, it's careless, and it's simply negligent. And I say that referring to the West Point website, which I've just looked up, bearing in mind I was aware of this alternate motion at about 6:58 p.m. this evening. Now, referring to the website, it talks about Fremantle's Inner Harbour will continue to play a key role in trade for our state. A new container port for WA will not only ensure trade to continue to move effectively for hundreds of years to come, key point, it will also provide an opportunity to establish a modern freight network that can adapt to future growth and technologies over time. The scale and interconnected nature of a trade supply chain means a major port of this scale must be planned well in advance. Again, key point. This allows any future development to be considered and gives the major construction projects that follow enough time to be carefully designed and delivered before trade bottlenecks happen in the future. Support this thorough planning. The Westport program is developing a business case they'll recommend to government. So Westport itself is providing a business case that will then recommend to government, another key point, high-level designs and best timing and means to transition from the inner harbour in Fremantle to the outer harbour in Kwinana. Associated with that narrative to the right of that is a nice map. It's really interesting. It hasn't been lost on me that talks about Coburn Sound. It's got a new terminal that's highlighted in orange, and directly to the east of that is a road called Ankertel Road, which many would be aware of. That then comes into Thomas Road, and there's a suburb there called Oakford. Now, I would certainly not preempt anything, but what I would say is by us asking the minister, and this is a minister who refuses to meet with councillors, a minister who refuses to come down and engage with councillors and staff, including the CEO, about Metronet. And in actual fact, councillors and staff have to go to Dumas' house during the day when most councillors work and not even have the courtesy to meet with the minister herself, but meet with a public servant. That is key. So we're now going to ask...
Point of order, Councillor Coles. Point of order A is that the discussion is a matter before the council or committee. What you have just stated is not the matter that is before us. Can you please stick to the item that we have on the agenda before us, please?
Thank you, Madam President. Suffice to say it is the same minister and now the Deputy Premier, Honourable Rita Safiotti, so I won't take that any further. But what I would say is, why would we as a council limit options? Why would we as a council go back to the state government, and state government, I understand the relationship between state government and Westport, but Westport themselves have to put a business case forward to the state government. So now we're telling the state government via the minister, who's not prepared to engage with us on other issues, to influence the decision of a separate group to influence the government so West Munijong can be developed. To me, this is, as I said before, this is reckless, rash, careless and simply negligent. Why would we as a council, and we've heard tonight from other members of the public about some concerns with us and approving things and not doing the right thing in their eyes, why would we as a council try and influence a state government and a state government agency to take away an option of Oakford? Why would we put all our eggs in the basket and say, Minister, we only want to do West Munijong Industrial Area? We've got so many problems developing it. What we're going to do now is abrogate our responsibility as local government, as a local shire. We're going to put everything back to the state government. Oh, and by the way, when you look at Westport, that can be the excuse, that can be the reason for you as a state government to try and do something the shire should be doing in terms of developing West Munijong. Perhaps this should have been thought about when West Munijong land was gifted to the shire. I won't take that any further, but what I would say, this is a critical decision. This is a critical decision we as councillors have. Westport, as has been mentioned, is a game changer for this shire. This is what we need as a shire. This will put us on the map, but more importantly, this will give us a rate source so the poor old cash cow of residents won't keep on being milked dry with rate increases year after year after year, simply because we as council have made poor decisions. Let's think about this. Let's not put all our eggs in one basket. When you plan, you need to think about redundancy. You need to think about different courses of action. It is negligent, careless, reckless, rash to put all our eggs in one basket and tell the minister she must tell Westport to go to West Munijong. She must fund West Munijong. She must set West Munijong up for the shire. That is ridiculous. I cannot support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Is there any other councillor who'd like to speak for the motion? Councillor Strange, would you like to close, please?
Thank you, Madam President. What this motion does not say is the minister must do this, the minister must do that. What it says is that we would like to request financial support to help expedite the provision of industrial land at West Munijong, consistent with our local planning framework. What this motion does is advise them that we don't support an option for Westport logistics that involves an area of rural land that is totally contrary to our local planning scheme. It is us advising them that we've gone through established processes to arrive at a land use scenario for our future. And this is not reckless, this is certainly not negligent. This is the type of action that will provide relief for our ratepayers in the future in terms of providing much needed local jobs and rate revenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. All those in favour of the alternate motion before us this evening? 1, 2, 3, 4. All those against? Motion is carried 4-1.
And I would ask the votes recorded. Thank you, Madam President.
Minute Secretary, can we please have the votes recorded?
And Councillor Strange, we'll need a reason for the difference from the officer recommendation.
The reason would be to remind the state government of the Shire's adopted local planning framework and seek their support for West Mundijong industrial area in its decision making.
Councillor Atwell, Council has supported an alternate motion which reads in part 1, the same as what the officer's recommendation was, and has a part 2 which reads, request that the CEO write to the Honourable Rita Saviotti MLA in her capacity as WA State Treasurer and the Minister for Transport, encompassing responsibilities for Westport. 1, requests financial support for the provision of essential infrastructure to service the West Mundijong industrial area, as has been provided by the state for both the Nambullap and Forestdale industrial areas. 2, advising that in relation to the Westport landside logistics options presented to the council in a briefing earlier this year, the council does not support option 3, Oakford Major Logistics Hub, given its undermining of the Shire's local planning framework and significantly it impacts on the West Mundijong industrial area. And 3, copying the correspondence to the Honourable David Michael MLA in his capacity as Minister supporting the Minister for Transport. That motion was carried 4-1.
Madam President, can I ask that we proceed to item 10.4.4, which is in regards to the Serpentine Golf Club, only because there's a few members in the audience here that are here for that agenda item.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Can I please have a seconder for the motion put forward by Councillor Coles? Thank you, Councillor Strange. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. We'll move to item 10.4.4, Serpentine District Golf Club Facilities Upgrade. Can I please have a mover for the motion?
Madam President, I seek to move my alternate motion that was circulated this afternoon.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. Can I please have a seconder for the alternate motion circulated by Councillor Coles? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this alternate motion? Motion is carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. So the difference, or the reason the difference officer's recommendation is to assist the Serpentine District Golf Club in regards to them carrying out their geotechnical investigations and engineering service report. To assist the Serpentine District Golf Club to carry out their geotechnical investigations and engineering service reports.
Happy with that wording, Councillor Coles?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. CEO. Thank you.
Item 10.1.
Sorry, Madam President, I don't know if that's actually the right motion. Okay, got it there. Sorry, I was looking at the thank you.
Item 10.1.10, Thomas Road Duplication Project and update regarding Equine Trail request. Can I please have a mover for this motion?
Madam President, Councillor Stroughton's here. I am moving the alternate motion that I've earlier circulated.
Thank you, Councillor Stroughton. Can I please have a seconder for the alternate motion?
Just wait, Madam President, to get it on the screen. We've just been moving around a little bit, so that's just.
Can I please have a seconder for the alternate motion before us, please? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this alternate motion? Motion is carried unanimously.
Councillor Stroughton, we wanted a reason for the difference for the officer recommendation for the minutes, please.
Yeah, thank you, CEO. To further improve safety.
Item 10.2 is infrastructure services reports. 10.2.1 minutes of the Rivers Regional Council meeting held on the 15th of June 2023. Can I please have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Stroughton. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.3, RFT 04-2023, Alton Road Telstra Assets Relocation. Take a step back. Item 10.2.2, road closure and land exchange portion of Dolly Road, Byford. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Coles. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.3, RFT 04-2023, Orton Road, Telstra Assets Relocation. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3, Corporate Services Reports. 10.3.1, Confirmation of Payment of Creditors, June 2023. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Councillor Strawtons, are you happy to second? Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.2, Monthly Financial Report, May 2023. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Strange. Councillor Duggan, are you happy to second?
Yes, thanks, Madam President.
Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4, Community Engagement Reports. 10.4.1, 2023-2024 Bushfire Mitigation Activity Fund. Can I please have a mover for this motion, please? Thank you, councillor Strange. Councillor Strawtons, are you happy to second? Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.2, Equine Advisory Group, Equine Priorities Update and Recommendation. Can I please have a mover for this motion, please? Thank you, councillor Strawtons. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Coles. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.3, Local Emergency Management Committee Information Report. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.4, Serpentine District Golf Club Facilities Upgrade has already been dealt with. Item 10.5, Executive Services Reports. 10.5.1, Consideration of motions carried at the annual general meeting of electors and held on Wednesday, the 14th of June 2023. Councillors, can I please have a mover for the motion? Thank you, councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Mr. CEO, I have some questions in regards to the information provided to councillors through a community member statement this evening, and in respect to item 3 of the officer's recommendation. Given the information that has been provided, is it still up to a community member to provide a code of conduct report to council or to the Shire in respect to the information that has been received?
Madam President, we have no reason to change our officer recommendation in light of the information received. If the member of the public wanted to progress down that course of action, that information could go with any complaints that are made, if at all. But that's up to council to consider when it considers the motions from the electors' meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. I will call again. Is there any councillors opposed to the motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Can we please ask Councillor Coles to return to the chamber, please? Councillor Coles, the officer's recommendation has been carried unanimously. Item 10.5.2 is Peel Regional Leaders Forum minutes. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Can I please have a seconder? I'm happy to second. Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.6 is confidential reports. Can I please have a mover to close the chambers to members of the public gallery? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Straughtons. All those in favour? Motion is carried unanimously.